Welcome back to Fujitsu Forum TV. It's a hive of activity downstairs, 12,500 business leaders having travelled from more than 80 countries around the globe. They're here for day 2 of Fujitsu Forum 2018 to understand the theme of co-creation for success. Next, we're talking automotive, an industry that was, well, it dates back to 1886 when Carl Benz patented the car. We know that Henry Ford was largely accredited taking the car from a luxury item for the rich and famous to delivering it to the masses. But today, right now, industry is arguably going through its biggest change since the car was incepted. The move from the combustion engine to the electric vehicle. And how realistic is it? This is a question, just to be clear, I'm asking 3 German gentlemen live in Munich whether Germany are still going to be leading the automotive industry by 2030. This is either going to be interesting or insane for a Brit to do this. Defending Germany's offer, we've got Ingo, Christoph and Hugo. Thank you all for joining us. Industry is fascinating right now with this move from the combustion engine. It's effectively a move from a hardware product to a software product. What I'm keen to understand is how well manufacturers are grasping and innovating with technology and using the data flowing around cars. Have we even begun to scratch the surface yet?
Yeah, I think if you look to the automotive industry, as you said, it's a long history of roughly 130 years now. And it has been a very technological product from hardware, combustion engine, transmission, those topics. And I think Germany and the German manufacturers were dominating this market over the last 2 or 3 decades. Now there is a big change. It's not only going from the combustion engine to the electric-driven car. It's also the change to go to the autonomous-driven car. It's also the change to have the more connected car, which is part of the World Wide Web by the end of the day. And you also see that consumers change their behavior. So from owning a car to buying mobility, especially in urban societies, big cities or so, younger people don't expect to buy a car anymore, but they want to have a certain mobility. So it's a massive change in the automotive industry, probably the biggest change of the entire history. And I think a lot of steps have been taken, but you will see that new players come in and new countries are going to dominate stronger. If you look to the US and China, they're extremely strong in the platform business. And I think this will be one of the winning parts for the mobility as a service of the future. A lot of the cars, especially those that are autonomous driven, will get more commodity, and therefore it doesn't matter so much anymore which brand you go, because for a lot of services you want to go from A to B with any kind of car it is. So there will be a big change in the way to market the cars. You will still remain with a luxury product, which is, I think, a big possibility for the German automotives, because they have very strong brands in that. But as I said, I think the platform businesses will be taking over with a new growth in the automotive sector, especially if it goes to multimodal mobility. Yeah? And I think therefore we will see that we will have new players, different players in the future dominating the entire market. And I believe it will not be one country or a few players. It will be more a bigger ecosystem to drive the entire mobility and the automotive industry.
2030, I've got to ask this because what Tesla are doing out of America, the Asia innovation, you mentioned China there. Are Germany still going to be leading the automotive industry in 2030?
This is a good question. I think they are all preparing and fighting to defend the position. But if you look to reality, Tesla today is selling more cars in the US than Audi, BMW or Mercedes. Yeah? So you see that the electric-driven car, the Tesla way of doing business, is now growing strongly, despite all the issues Tesla had over the last years. And I believe the German industry understood, so they come with new models that go in this direction, that are innovative, that are electric-driven, that are semi-autonomous, and I would say within the next 5 to 10 years fully autonomous. But the question is who will win the business by the end of the day. So I can't tell you the truth. I believe the German players will still be strong, but probably not having the domination they have today. Yeah.
On Fujitsu Forum TV, we're committed to sort of surfacing the challenges within business that boardrooms are facing and the answers to those issues. What I'm keen to understand is, where should manufacturers be focusing their efforts right now? Because there's a lot of technology available. Should they be looking at the supply chain? Should they be working on components? We've got the move to the electric vehicle, the autonomous vehicle. Where should innovation efforts be focusing right now?
I think the biggest problem for the OEMs currently is that all these trends are rising at the same time, and exactly where to focus, because they have to fulfill all these market trends, and there are different layers where they have to look at. As one is this vehicle as a service. Should they focus on providing in the future a vehicle as a platform for other asset-less or asset-light providers to use these cars, offer all these services around that, or should they move one level higher and focus really on this mobility as a service, direct customer access, and being a platform player itself? And I think that's part of the race that's happened currently. And I think the one is to make the autonomous and electric and connected car happen with the right technology, but also with the right technology partners. And the second thing is building a completely new way of accessing customers in this mobility as a service area, building right partnerships. And we are seeing that currently, that German OEMs are joining forces in the mobility space to get a bigger size, to scale better and get better access to customers.
And please let me add to what you have said, that looking to the classic automotive OEMs that have a lot of history, that are have a big size in the market, it's even more difficult for them because they have to fulfill the needs of today's cars and maintain the business they have, and at the same time going into the innovation. So I think that players that come to the market, as you see Tesla, as you see other startups out of Europe, even Germany has some startups in this area, you will see that for them it's much easier because they just focus on the new business and they don't need to maintain the legacy so much. Yeah? And I think that's a big advantage for the new players to come.
But if I can add one thing, I think going back to the initial question is like, if you think about where they should invest, I think if it's supply chain or whatnot, I think one of the typical problems that the automotive industry is currently facing is not about building better cars. It's not building the bigger engine. It's not building safety is of course a key topic. But I think the investments are around in things like AI, like services. The supply chain is of course important to to optimize in that sense. Their AI plays a role, connected as well. So if I think like the biggest topics that are now in the heads of them is definitely AI, is connectivity, and of course electric cars need electric batteries. That's a big topic at the moment. So if I would be the CEO of some of those companies, I would look at what I have at the moment and where I need to maybe diversify, because I will not do the same thing as I did before, putting a car that drives faster, goes faster from 0 to 100 in a couple of seconds. All electric cars do that extremely well. So it's a challenging time. So I think what we see the customers are coming to us is actually to help exactly with those topics where IT can create differentiator for them. Just like Ingo said, it's all about building platforms as services to actually to change the whole industry.
And what we saw over the last years was that a lot of customers wanted to have new functionality, more stability and so on. And today flexibility is the top priority, because as they don't know when the combustion engine will go out, when the electric car will come, whether fuel cell cars will come, so flexibility of production, flexibility of business needs, I think is the top priority, and that needs a lot of consulting, a lot of discussion, and there is no easy solution on that way, because it's for each company it's a very unique way ahead they have to develop. And this is, of course, everybody goes into new space. Yeah. So in the past, they were a lot walking on the paths they already walked over decades, and now it's going into completely new areas. And I think that's the real challenge these automotive players have at the end. Yeah.
If we're delivering the electric car, the autonomous vehicle, I mean, reports are suggesting these are going to be super reliable vehicles that don't need replacing. Where's the sustainable revenues going to be for manufacturers? We're not going to need to replace cars with the frequency we have in the past.
Well, I think they will come out of the service and no longer out of the product,
Yes,
because
exactly.
the product will go commodity. Yeah, and today the customer experience is in how to drive a car. It has a great engine, great design. I like being the driver, going at high velocity, etc. Yeah? In the future, it is more about how do I spend my time going from A to B, because I have not to drive myself any longer. It's autonomous. Yeah. So when I can then imagine that these platform providers, the owner of the car, they will provide services. Yeah. Do I go shopping on with Amazon or whatever and get then a trip for free, or do I have specific environments like an office, a meeting space, a children's playground, whatever, or even having my haircut or a massage during my ride. Yeah. Because it's about the time I spend in the future, and I think the monetarization will go around these kind of services in the future.
But if I can add one thing to what Christoph is saying, absolutely right if you think about the future. But I think in the near future, these companies need to make business in between. I think it's all about, of course, autonomous driving is like a target for all of them. I think in between there will be a lot of things with the current sort of like mixed technologies, because what we hear about autonomous cars is like those are almost not cars. There's like small buses and small minibuses or whatnot. So I don't believe like the luxury brands, just like Ingo is saying, will completely be able to sort of to move into that direction. So we will see a lot of safety features based on AI, a lot of features that in the current existing cars being used by connectivity and sharing models and whatnot. So there's definitely a lot of business to be done today already.
But what you also have to see is that the disruption is not only for the automotive
Absolutely.
OEMs and their suppliers, but it's also for the ecosystem. Look to insurances, yeah? So if you have the autonomous driven car and there is literally no accident anymore, nobody does need a car insurance. So these players also try to get into the service business around the car or the mobility. Yeah. So you have more competitors to fight for the same market, and I think those who come out of the platform business, out of the customer focused business, will have some advantages to those who were focused on manufacturing in the past. Yeah.
Very good.
So at least that's also the research institutes give this direction, that this will be very difficult for people who were focused on manufacturing to go onto a customer-driven service business. And you see that all the automotives try to set up startups around them. They have started with that quite some time ago, most of them already. But now they merge already the first startups, as you can see, with Daimler and BMW, with Movil and Drive Now merging already. So the question is, will they be able to defend a big part of the market in future? And this is something we will see. So we don't know yet, yeah, but I see it will be very difficult for those players. Yeah.
Final question, because we're rapidly running out of time. I could talk about this for another 20 minutes. This is a fascinating topic. 2 weeks ago in the UK, a minister came out and said we want hard stop deadlines for when the combustion engine's going to be gone from us. He was muting 2030 as a hard stop date. Question, how realistic is it that we're going to have government legislation across the board to move to the electric vehicle, and will manufacturers meet those deadlines?
So very clear, a lot of countries that don't have big automotive OEMs inside their countries decide pretty quick on 2030, 2035, 2040 that the combustion engine will go out. And I think this will be reality. And the biggest automotive market today in the world is China. They go massively in the direction of electric driven cars. So for me it's clear, between 2030 and 2040 will be the end of the combustion engine, what I see. Yeah? And this is, of course, countries that have a lot of automotive industry, like Germany, like France, Italy in Europe, or UK, the Nordics, especially Sweden. They are a little bit more careful because it touches, of course, their countries directly. But those countries who don't have a big automotive industry will decide, and China will drive the market. And that's, for me, clear that it will go into this direction. Yeah.
Fascinating. Thank you all for your time. I genuinely could have spoken for another half an hour. We are out of time. What a shame. But hopefully That has chimed with a few of you. There's some wonderful points that have been raised this morning. Fujitsu Forum TV is all about surfacing the challenges going on in industry right now and bringing insight and solution to those very issues. Still plenty more to come on Fujitsu Forum TV. Up next in just over 15 minutes time, it's the keynote with Dr. Joseph Rieger. He's going to be talking to us about blockchain, going beyond the hype, helping us realise that it's no longer just about cryptocurrency. There's far wider ranging applications that can be delivered. If you want to see a 10-minute interview on blockchain with Dr. Joseph Rieger before he does his keynote, we spoke to him this morning. It's there on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. All you need to do is go and take a look at the Fujitsu Forum TV content. Stay with us. This keynote's going to be a cracker.